France Musique.
Depuis plus de 25 ans, Jim O'Rourke construit sa légende. Artiste insaisissable, il évolue dans toutes les strates de la création musicale, depuis l'improvisation à la guitare jusqu'à la musique concrète ou électronique, en passant par des projets pop ou franchement rock, notamment lorsqu'il était membre du groupe Sonic Youth. Mais cet éclectisme ne doit pas se percevoir comme un opportunisme. Au contraire, la singularité de Jim O'Rourke réside dans une passion, voire une obsession pour la musique en tant que telle, libérée des genres, désenclavée des styles et des modes. Nous l'avons rencontré à Tokyo, ville qui ne quitte presque plus jamais, et il est l'invité de ce tapage nocturne. Jim O'Rourke, quelle a été votre première rencontre avec la musique?
When I was 6 years old, my parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said an 8mm camera. But we were pretty poor, so instead of an 8mm camera, I got like a $10 acoustic guitar because my mother or someone had an uncle from 100 years ago who supposedly played the accordion well. So they just assumed that I would be able to play an instrument. So instead of a filmmaker, I played music. That's how I started being a musician.
And music was present in your family?
No, not at all. I listened to it. I mean, like I was really, that was around the time that Paul McCartney's Band on the Run came out. And I used to, not argue, but I used to debate with my father. My father would say, well, then you would like the Beatles, because I liked Paul McCartney. Because it was on the radio, you know, it was a big hit. And I said, no, that's his brother's band. That's his brother Lennon McCartney. I was like, I like Paul. So I was into music, but no one else in my family was, you know.
So you're from Chicago?
I was born in Chicago. My parents are from Ireland, though.
Yeah.
They're not American. And so I spent like not a third, but a little less than a third I spent maybe a third or a little less than a third in Ireland, because when school would be out, for some reason it would be cheaper or something for us to go back to Ireland and like live for free in these shacks that both of my parents were orphans, but they had some sort of family. It wasn't really family, but they lived basically in shacks in the country, and you know, they didn't have toilets or anything, but we would live there when school was out. So there wasn't much American culture in the house at all, you know. There was no American comic books or anything like that, you know. It was a very Irish house.
Chicago, à cette époque, il y avait une vie musicale très active.
I spent most of my time going to the movies. I didn't really go to shows and stuff like that until... I mean, I would go see, like I went to see Wings or Jethro Tull, you know, when I was really little. I went to a lot of that stuff. And I saw stuff when I'd go over to Ireland, but I mostly spent my time going to the movies. I was, even from a young age, I preferred listening to records at home than going to the shows. Just because there's just all these people there, you know. And I liked being able to listen to the record whenever I wanted. And so most, like, in terms of going out and being involved with Chicago, was more with film. Because it wasn't that bad then. There was some repertory theaters. There was, you know, where it was a different film every day. There was Chicago Filmworks where you could go see, you know, slightly more avant-garde stuff. So it was lively for me that way in regards to film, but not music. I mean, I know stuff was happening, but I didn't really care.
But you still went to like a music. Vous avez étudié la musique à l'université?
I went to college for music. Yeah, I went to DePaul University. First, I was going as a double bass major, because I mean, my parents were sort of pushing me to do something that they say you can get dressed up and wear a nice tie, the basic kind of immigrant idea of what like success is, you know. So let's see, there it goes. At first I was a bass major, but I was already doing like tape stuff, you know, at home. You know, I had been doing this stuff already. And the first year when I was a bass major, the school would let you use one of the school's basses. I didn't have my own double bass at this point. Of course, you know, kids don't have their own double basses unless they're rich. But I was using like the school's so-called electronic music studio, which was a cassette 8-track and a DX7. That was DePaul University's electronic music studio. But the second year, when you have to declare your major, they said you couldn't use the school's basses anymore. So when I saw how much basses costs, I decided to become a composition major. Because I was really more interested in making stuff on tape than playing the bass. So that's when I supposedly became a composition major. Oh, that's when I supposedly became a composition major, and that was interesting.
À cette période, à l'université, étiez-vous lié à d'autres musiciens de Chicago ou pas vraiment?
Not really. I mean, I had my dumb little group. I mean, I was already like doing. That was like the height of that was like the real beginnings or height of the whole like cassette noise underground that was happening worldwide. So I was already in touch with like Masami Akira, Merzbau, and Nakafumi Akajima, who was Aub in Japan, and the guys who were P16D4 and Christoph Heeman. I was already in touch, and I was actually already playing. I was already playing with like Derek Bailey and the guys in AMM, and I was in Organum by that point. This when I was in college, so that was like sort of what I was doing, outside of school, and so in Chicago, not so much, no.
So how did you get in touch with Bailey?
Et comment êtes-vous rentré en
Just wrote to
contact
him
avec
when I was
Derek
like
Bailey?
13 years old. I just wrote to him. I said, I'm going to be. Was it 13? I wrote to him when I was 13. And the first time I went to, because my parents said if I saved money, because my mom had a stepsister in London, and I wanted to go to London. I was sick and tired of going to Ireland during the summer, and so this is when I was still in high school. They said if I saved enough money to buy tickets for the hydrofoil, I could go stay with my aunt instead of being in Ireland. So I think it was when I was 16. Yeah, that makes sense. I went to London and stayed with my aunt instead of going to Ireland, and I just went to Derek's house. And he already knew me from letters at this point, but I just went there, and he made me tea, and then he went in the closet that had all the Incas records, and I had saved enough money to buy a bunch of them, and he gave me a deal so I could take some more. And so from there, I mean, I was already doing prepared guitar stuff and everything at a point, so I gave him one of my cassettes, of course. And he was nice to me, and then he would, the next year when I went back to London again, I would visit him, and he'd bring me to shows of his and stuff, and so just bit by bit, things. And then I knew someone in Chicago who had worked with AMM, so through him I contacted Eddie Prevost, because he had made this split record, Eddie Prevost and Organum on the other side, and I told Eddie how much I liked the Organum stuff, and he said, well, I'll give you his address. And then I wrote to David Jackman, and then the next time I went to London during school break, I met David Jackman, and it just kind of went from there. And then through David Jackman I met Christoph Heeman, and blah blah blah.
Dès vos débuts, vous avez exploré de nombreux genres musicaux. Qu'est-ce qui vous a poussé vers ces explorations?
I guess I just never thought of anything as genre doesn't interest me. I mean, each individual work is trying to do something, and poses a certain set of questions, you could say. And what I find interesting is how someone finds answers for those. And for me, it isn't an answer, because the answer becomes the next question. And you can hear you can hear that in some people's music, and that's what I find interesting. It isn't because I like rock music or I like music concrete or whatever. I mean, even within those, the people whose work I find interesting, it's not that they're doing the same thing, it's that they have a certain mindset that I like. So I guess you could say it's like a wavelength I can relate to. So genre doesn't interest me. Of course, genre is interesting because it's part of the language of what you're using. And, you know, if someone's using the rules of, you know, it's just like the same thing with filmmakers who make genre films. It's like who uses those rules in interesting ways. Or it's not so much finding people who bend them in interesting ways. It's more like how people can, like, find new ways of using them and finding new resonances for them. So genre doesn't really mean anything to me outside of, like, what it implies as of the, you know, how it makes it what it is, what distinguishes it from something else. But I never understood someone who says, I like rock music, because that means you like a lot of garbage as well as the good stuff. Why don't you just like the good stuff?
Beaucoup de journalistes ou de médias sont encore déconcertés par cela dans votre musique.
Yeah, I mean, I just not interested in that way of thinking. I mean, it happens, and that's nothing I can do about it. But it just doesn't interest me. I would hope that instead of thinking what genre it is, it would tell someone, why am I looking for a genre for this? Why don't I just call it this? You know, like, it's this person's music, you know. But
Et ce que vous cherchez finalement, c'est peut-être de trouver ce qu'est la musique pour vous?
I hope so.
But it's
I think so. I mean, it isn't meant to be. I don't want, because it could come off sounding like I'm boasting, but when people say, like you said earlier, you know, why do you jump genres? It's like, well, if you hear something of mine, you can always tell it's me. And I mean, that's not me boasting. I better believe it, or I should quit. You know, but I think you can always tell it's me. You know, people say, oh, this is John Fahey inspired, or this is like, yeah, but it doesn't sound like him. It sounds like me. So, I mean, that's just having and developing, and hopefully continually developing an aesthetic and finding the way to express that, not express, I don't like express, to translate it from your own personal, like, language of how you deal with music or anything. And that translation step is very important. How do you get this idea across to someone else? Because, you know, it's like it's kind of it was kind of a big deal for me when I was in college, arguing with the professors about Milton Babbitt, because they wanted us all to write like Milton Babbitt. And I was like, if I read the scores, I see what he's doing, but he hasn't taken the step to translate that so that those ideas are expressed musically. I mean, they are, but they're not. And that, to me, that translation step is the most interesting part of working, because that's where you learn things. That's where you fall on your face and make mistakes and find a new way of looking at things. Because if you continue to stay in the same point and look at things the same way, you're never going to grow. It's just not rewarding. So you have to do things. You have to look at it from a different perspective in order to find where your perspective is. You know, so you have to have some kind of context. And so, to me, I think that just that way of thinking and that way of working, that I think that comes across in everything I do. I mean, obviously some things are going to be more successful than others, but everything I do involves that way of thinking. So. I mean, I don't make music because I enjoy it. You know, I don't. And I think a lot of people who make music do it because they enjoy it. And if that person has a really strong personality, the personality comes through in the music. But I think in my case, whatever personality comes through in the music, it isn't so much my enjoyment of music. It's just my way of thinking. I mean, you could almost say it's like, you know, I'm almost doing critical reports on music more than doing things I'm actually enjoying. I mean, if I had to think about what I'm trying to, I mean, I would say in the end, everything is going to be one thing that I did. It's all just part of one thing. And if all goes well, I hope when I die, it'll all disappear. That's what I'm hoping. I really want it all to just disappear when I die. And so it was just this thing that existed, and if you wanted to dive into it, there's hopefully something to be, something reward, something you could get out of it that would change your position on things as well. But I don't think of it as, it's not like I'm looking for something, because like I said earlier, my main way of thinking is when I'm pose myself a question, it isn't that I'm looking for an answer, because I think the next answer is the next question.
Vous avez beaucoup collaboré avec d'autres artistes. Quelle est la différence avec un travail solo?
When I do my own things, it's a situation where I decide everything. That's where it's like two different modes, because probably when I was younger, I wasn't able to separate the two as well as I can now. I would, if someone's work pace was slower than me, I would just take over, just because I work faster, which is not a good thing at all. But when you're working with someone, it's you get to work in a way you don't when you work alone, because you have the luxury of stepping back and seeing something from someone else's perspective, and which hopefully will feed back into what you do on your own, because it changes how you look at, you see how someone else would do something. And whether you like it or not is kind of besides the point. But when I'm working alone, it's all got to come from up here, because that's what it is. Of course, there's a nuance to it. For one particular musician, I might write the music out completely, every single note, because they're that kind of musician. Or I know that this person has a certain peculiarity in their playing, so I want to take advantage of that, so I don't write as strictly for them. Or there's obviously nuance, and with some people you want to hear how they interpret something, but in the end it's going to be me that picks what happens. When you're working with someone else, it's like going out to play baseball or something. I don't know. Not that I play baseball, but it's you're in the game, but the game isn't just you, and that helps. When you're, hopefully the two support each other and give energy to the other, because once you're really sick and tired of one thing, the other thing is the thing you want. It's the thing you want to run to, and then when you're sick of that, you want to run back to the other thing. So they hopefully, and I think they do, because I think my whole life I've kind of seesawed like that. There's time to work alone and study and get better, and then there's times to play with it and see what can happen. So I guess that's how I separate it.
Vous avez dit par le passé que si vous pouviez arrêter de faire des concerts, vous le feriez. Pourquoi?
Well, I definitely don't like playing live. I have extreme stage fright. I still do. When it's my shows. When I'm playing with someone else, it's fine, because no one's looking at me. They're always looking at the other person for sure. But when it's my shows, first of all, I don't like this. It makes me physically ill. But the main thing is it doesn't sound like what I want it to sound like. I'm not able to make the sound be what I want it to be, and that's a big part of what those things are. And so I only do it when I have to. Playing in a situation where someone I'm collaborating with, or an improvisational show or something, I'm totally happy to do those. Those I really enjoy, because it's not about me. But as soon as it's about me, it's a bit too much for me. It used to be much worse. I would throw up after shows all the time. I think you heard Darren tell that story about when the first time we played the song stuff in Japan. It was just like every show I was just a mess, in a fetal position in backstage. But I've gotten much better, but it's still, I just don't like it, I don't like it at all. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it at all.
Understand.
Vous vivez désormais au Japon et vous ne voyagez plus, mais il semble que vous ayez retrouvé un groupe de musiciens fidèles.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while, because obviously I have my peculiarities about how I work. It wasn't about like finding like minions, but I think that's what that is for some people. I just had to find the people who worked, I mean, it took a while, I mean, most of the stuff I can do by myself, those things, but to do certain things, of course, I need other people, and eventually I found them, and, it eventually leveled out to a good number of people who really work together, and of course that becomes your family, of course, so, yeah, it worked out. It took a while, but it worked out.
Récemment, vous avez reçu des commandes d'Europe, notamment pour des pièces électroacoustiques, et sachant que vous ne seriez pas présent à la première. Trouvez-vous cela gratifiant d'être perçu comme un compositeur?
The thing is, I'm not. No one ever looks at me that way. So I've done it a few times, and people complain, why weren't you here? And it's like, well, you don't complain if Xenakis wasn't there. But, people don't think of me as a composer. I mean, I have purposely avoided calling myself that, because, I mean, that's just a long talk about my ideas about the composition world and my allergy to it. But that is what I'm doing, but people don't look at me that way. So people don't, even if it's on a festival of like that kind of thing where it's playback concert of like whatever Parmigiani, and then this and that, it's like, oh, and then they got this guy in there, and I mean, do you know what I mean? I get a lot of flack. Flack means like means it's a lot of people complaining, like kind of backlash of people like why weren't you there? And it's like, none of the composers were. Why do I have to be there? Nobody else was there who made the pieces. So it is frustrating, because like after all these years and actually having been involved in that music for a long, long time, a lot longer than some of these people who are doing this stuff have even been alive, quite frankly, I have to admit it's frustrating that I'm not allowed to do it. I mean, I am, but I don't need that nonsense, I'd rather not do it. I'd rather just go back to being, whatever it is. I like doing it. It was something I always wanted to do. It was something I was always doing, but like in the late 80s and early 90s, if you were making music like that, you had a choice to make it within the academic world, and basically only people in the academic world hear it. Or, as I chose to, at that time there was this, I don't know what you would call it, like, post-industrial or whatever, like there were labels like Stahlplatte and Touch, and there were people like Hafler Trio and P16D4, and a lot of these people were making really, really great music that was of the level of these composers, but they chose not to call themselves composers. And I mean, for some people, obviously it's a political statement, and I chose to do that because I was like, why shouldn't people hear it? I mean, my professors I remember my composition professor, at the beginning of a new year, he asked me what I had done over the summer break, and I said, well, I went to London, I played with Derek Bailey, and then a record came out of that piece I did last year, and blah, 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 and there's a CD coming out, and he said, well, maybe you should take a semester off and get all these records and CDs out of the way. It's mental. But I mean, it was a decision I made. I was like, I don't want to be part of this world. But now the world has changed, and it's come around to that, and now there's this, and it's funny, it's because this is going to sound weird, and I don't mean it I'm not just talking, there's obviously other people in the same situation as me, but it's like not being invited to the party that you planned. So,
Qu'allez-vous faire les prochains mois?
practice. I've got to practice a lot. Well, I've got to. After saying what I just said, the funny thing is I actually finally do have some commissions. So I'm writing a cello solo thing, and then there's a bunch of things of mine that have been kind of sitting there for a while because I haven't been able to work on them because of all this other stuff. So I'm hopefully gonna get those done. Probably next year. Probably won't be much in terms of records or shows or anything because I think I need to step it up a bit. I think I need to now get better than where I am now. So I think it'll be a lot of studying and practicing and throwing away stuff. Mostly throwing away stuff. But there'll be some things that I don't know who cares. I don't think there's many people waiting for anything, but I will try. I'll try to get better. Basically, the next year is my try to get better year. Thank you.